We are really very happy to have Laurie and Donnie today joining us here. And Laurie is the producer and the director of the documentary Day One, and Donnie is a principal from the school NCNAA in the United States, featured in Day One. So we welcome Laurie and Donnie for joining us today.
Thank
And yeah,
Thank
very
you.
happy to have you both. And we are so also excited to have your film to be in our Refugee Film Festival this year. And to begin with, we would want to ask, is there anything both of you would like to share with our audiences in the first place?
Do you want
Just any
to take
thoughts
it,
or
Donnie, to
feelings?
start?
Yeah.
Or, or I'll start. I just, I said this in my intro that I gave you. What I thought was really wonderful about the school and Donnie's leadership, her techniques, and the whole community was showing a place that really helped kids deal with their war traumas. And I like the idea of the trauma counseling as just an interesting idea for a school to help kids who are refugees. So I think that's one of the um, main points in the film, and we hope that this comes across when you're watching. So. But the other thing I want to say is just I was very taken with, how the kids really did enjoy talking on camera and telling their stories. And I thought that maybe they would be too traumatized or too shy. Sorry, my dog is barking up. I thought they might be too traumatized or too shy, but in fact, I think they enjoyed being able to talk about their experiences, and they felt really maybe listened to or empowered by that experience.
Yes.
And for Donnie, do you have
Yes.
any points? Yeah.
I just want to say I am so honored to have been a part of this documentary. Such an honor to meet Lori and to really understand how it started off and what it grew to be. I'm just honored to be a part of it. I think the most important thing is making newcomers, making children, students, and parents feel welcome and welcomed, and to make them feel a part and accepted. I think that is one of the main things for people who've been traumatized, who've been forced to leave their home and come to a new place. I think it's important that they feel like there's a place that they can belong. There's a place where people care and feel connected, especially when they're in a new country. So hopefully that's communicated as well. And they'll see the passion from the staff and the partners and everyone. Just it's deep inside. It's from the heart, and that's what I think Lori was able to capture, the heart of people in this film.
I can feel that you both are really having good friendship established already throughout the whole filming. So and Laurie talked about like one of the problems that she may be afraid of at first is about whether the kids may be scared of the camera. So in this perspective, does Donnie have any thoughts at the beginning about this issue, or how do you feel like students in your school are performing, or do you also worry a bit about whether this setting with the camera on, following and asking about these stories back in their home countries may also pose some risk, or you're very comfortable at the beginning of first?
Well, I think at the very beginning, I I did not know Lori until she came to my school. I was introduced to her by Peter Tao, and so I did not know exactly what to expect. Um, and it we grew. Now she's my sister, so we developed a friendship. But the only thing that I was careful of is students telling their stories and perhaps reliving the trauma. And we were trying to get them to, be able to deal with the trauma and to, but it did not. I think they enjoyed telling their stories. I think it was a journey that they wanted to share. I was very impressed with their ability, even with limited English, the ability that they had to communicate their feelings and thoughts and everything with Lori. I was very proud of them because they had just come into the country. So I was proud of them, and I was proud of my teachers because I could see that their instruction was working because my students were able to communicate in English. So it was after a while, I was glad. It was no problem at all. Yeah, it was no problem.
Yeah, I'll just go jump back to one thing Donnie said in the beginning, just the amount of heart that was at the school. And I just, for me as a filmmaker, that is the thing that I always try to look for in any story is humanity, heart, love, humor. These are my favorite subjects because I think this is how, as a society, as an international community, we're going to heal if we can be nice to each other, frankly. And I do think that the kids were able to speak on camera because they did feel so safe in that environment. And it was unbelievable to see this. I wasn't sure that I was even wanting to go forward with the film, but when I saw this unbelievable environment, I thought, wow, I will never find anything like this again. I mean, it's such a special nugget. And I live in a different city, and I knew nothing about this program. So that it's really about the people there. And it's true, some of the kids I interviewed had a few weeks of English language instruction.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just love this whole theme of just how they were made to feel so safe in that particular environment. And I truly believe it, I truly believe it makes a difference, guys. It makes a difference for their future. Just a small amount of investment makes a difference like that.
So we're actually all very impressed by your school, like the environment created and how passionate all the staff are. And we believe that just like all the people who were taking part in this, creating the whole safe environment for refugee students, that we believe that every action counts. So everyone's participation in the whole school is really contributing to the whole thing that can help refugees to overcome their traumas, as you have suggested. And we believe that, like, we appreciate so much what you guys are doing. And yeah, and we want to ask more about your experience, for example, for maybe to Donnie. We would like to hear more about maybe your personal experience teaching in this school. Like, how are the students like, and what have impressed you most during your past years in NCNAA?
Mm-hmm. Well, I let me go back. I worked with refugees and immigrants exclusively since 1995 as a counselor. And so I worked, that's when they were not in one place, they were all scattered around. And I went to different schools to first to make sure that if they had transcripts, if they had credits, if they were in high school, if they were in middle school, just to make them feel welcome and to help the teachers and help the counselors in those schools to understand the culture of the students and kind of get to know them and their background. I became the principal of Nehat Chapman in 2013. When Nehat Chapman, actually, I became the principal in July, and Nehat Chapman died in December. And so, as the principal, it was like a different hat for me. But I kind of had worked. I've been with the school the whole time, but now I was in charge of everything. I was overseeing a staff of 60, and that last year we had 588 children in the building. And so the thing, I think I was blessed with such an amazing team. And so seeing the effort of the team, the teachers, the counselor, the social worker, we had a trauma informed trainer. It just, and, you know, of course, just seeing and knowing their background, we had teachers who were ESOL certified, so they were highly qualified teachers. But along with that that qualification also came the heart and the passion and the spirit. And so seeing the children and realizing their needs and understanding that they they should have access to an education as well. They should have dreams that they can achieve, not just a dream, but a plan, a goal. And I just wanted to make sure that our students, even though they come as disadvantaged, that they would have access to a better life and through an education. And so those are the things, just every child has the right to an education. Every child, from wherever you come from, you should have the right to an education. And I think that's what I was driven by, to make sure they had equal access to a successful life through education. And so I think that whole thing just kind of fell on me to be the person in charge of curriculum and discipline and positive behavior, school culture, lunches, everything. So you see you have to take a holistic approach to children, but you also have to understand their physical needs, their social needs, even their diets, their dietary needs. And so I was impressed with when they came. I was broken by understanding what they had been through. So I felt that it was my job to make them feel safe and to make them feel welcome. They needed a place to feel like, oh, they like me here. They want me to be here, and to unravel and to, move beyond some of the trauma, reduce that whole syndrome of being traumatized, make them feel safe and welcome. So I think the academics and being safe were equal. A student cannot learn if they don't feel safe, if they haven't been fed, if they, all of those needs need to be met so that we can move along with them as far as English acquisition, for us, English acquisition, and also just being included, understanding the culture, understanding the educational system in the United States. That was, how does this work? So it's a lot. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. So Donnie was
thinking when Donnie was talking, the theme of the film is equity in education and giving a chance to every child. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've thought about a lot, just in general, is how in the United States, our public school system tends to throw 40, 50 kids into one classroom. They aren't aware of what's going on at home with the kids, and then we expect the kids to succeed, and then we complain if the schools, quote, let the kids down. And what I was amazed at seeing at NCNAA, because it's a public school, is how much one-on-one attention these kids could get if they needed it. If they didn't, they could just be in the class with the other kids. But this team was very, very aware of when a kid seemed to need something, and they could give it to that kid, and that child, I should say, would really be able to turn around and get on track. And I just thought it was a fascinating environment, and it doesn't take a lot to do that. There was a scene where one of the she's a teaching assistant. She was sitting in the hallway with one of the students and helping her with the math problem.
Yeah.
So her math teacher was aware that she maybe needed, this is a very bright kid who's doing unbelievably well. But, she just arrived from another country, spoke a different language. And this school, under, Donnie's leadership with this great team, they really were aware of each kid and their needs. And this is how you help kids be successful in life, I believe.
Yeah, I've also done my research before this interview, and I know that Laurie is particularly interested in the topic of education. So I just wonder why, can you share with us the reasons when you decided to start all this filming project in the first place, and is this something related to your previous strong interest in education, and I know that it's also maybe because of your daughter, and you start to care a lot more on the reflecting more on the situation in the States and education itself. So do you see any particular things that stood out and makes you decide to start filming NCNAA and go through all these interviews with teachers and students?
That's what it is. I am very, very interested in education and public education, and it's my own personal philosophy that the only thing standing between a child finding themselves and their passion in life and having a happy life, a productive life, is a good education. I mean, they have to, if obviously there's other psychological factors and financial, but I just believe in the power of a team like Donnie's to start a child out in life. I think some of it too is I made this film years ago. I didn't direct it, but I produced it, Shakespeare High, and I saw it's this drama program in Los Angeles. It addresses kids from all walks of life, but I saw that the kids who were very, very underserved and had very, very difficult childhoods, that through their relationships with their drama teachers and their passion for Shakespeare, these kids should have dropped out, were about to drop out, but didn't. And they went on to college. And it was unbelievable just observing that. And then when I was able to tell the story from the angle of the refugees, I felt like it was an opportunity for me just to show what I think public school educators are heroes, and we do not value them in our society enough. And this is why I wanted to make this movie, as well as showing this soft place to land and how you can help these kids. So that's my personal feeling about it. So for me, it was an exciting opportunity to find this school and to be able to be behind the camera and just let it unfold in front of me. And like Donnie said, she's my sister, and she was incredible. And all the teachers helped me. They helped me make this film. It was this bunch of women, and they helped me, and it was a very magical experience for me, frankly. So.
This is very amazing to how to see how you are close with each other, and yeah, that's a very like the whole vibe of the school is so extraordinary, and everyone is so impressed while watching this movie. So I hope like our audiences who have watched this movie would also enjoy that. And just Laurie spoke of some of the students were kind of like at the verge of dropping out of school. And I just have some statistics that I also want to share with some of the audiences and both of you here, that we actually have 3.7 million refugee children around the world who are out of school, even though they are at the age of should be going to school already. And for the current refugee enrollment rates in the world, like for secondary school, we only have like 24% of refugee children really enrolled in school and attending classes. So we really hope like we can really, as Donnie said, like it's really important to give education to students and refugee children, so they get the chance to really get the languages and like basic knowledge that they need to pursue their own dream. And we believe that like all people, like kind people like you both, every action counts, because everyone's effort put in the whole thing can help create a better world, a safer environment that can allow refugees to also thrive and pursue their own dreams and make a better living. So these will be some of the background statistics that I would also like to share here. And back to our interview with you guys would be, we would also like to hear more of some of the experiences while Laurie was filming the film. How would you describe your feelings when hearing to all those stories of the students? Because many of them, they actually come from some war-torn countries, and it was really hard, as you guys mentioned, that they would be facing lots of traumas, and they have to start a new life in a new environment from zero, from scratch. So would you describe it as really like very hard to listen, or you also see some of the inspirations during the dialogue with them?
You know, we had a very small crew. Most of the time, it's just myself and Brian O'Connell, who Donnie knows quite well, the film cinematographer, and I think we both felt that it was difficult to film long hours listening to these stories, because it was very, very hard to hear what these kids had gone through, and it was very, very intense. So where we've done other films in the past and we could just go, 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 let's get this, let's get that, we were very affected by what we were hearing, and it was exhausting, actually, because you would feel, it just was so hard to hear what these kids had suffered through. On the other hand, they were such a joyful bunch of people, as Donnie will tell you. I mean, she saw times when they weren't, but the kids that we worked with, most of them were also like regular kids, and I think it's sort of the statistic that you brought up is really upsetting. You know, how few of these kids are in school, but if they're allowed to be in a normal environment, even after suffering those traumas, I think they can go back and live they can experience a childhood of some kind in a nurturing environment like that. And so once we kind of got the stories out of the way, and that was very, very intense, we were just filming kids, you know, teenagers. So that was sort of the dual experience. But you know, that was me. And just one thing about the statistic, and then I want Donnie to talk. You know, St. Louis is interesting to me because they've been resettling refugees for many, many decades. So they were able to come up with this kind of entrepreneurial model of the school. And I think that that was what's so interesting. Just hearing Donnie talk about her decades of experience and being able to shape this, I do think this is so valuable, and I really do. And so we appreciate your showing it to others just for that reason, because it's a unique model, I think. So, yeah.
But Donnie, have you anything to add?
I want Donnie to talk more because we're lucky to have her. So,
yeah.
I was very amazed, and I still am amazed, because I see some of those students now that are graduating. But I'm amazed at the resiliency of many of the students. I think having a compassionate heart and having empathy and just listening and letting them talk, and never saying, I know what you're going through, because I did not. And I think listening and just letting them know how much you care made a big difference. But I was so inspired by these children. I hope that I imparted something with them, even if it's half of what I got from them. It was a reciprocal thing. So these students were so inspiring, seeing them understanding some of their stories. You wouldn't believe some of the things they had experienced, witnessed, and to hear their stories when they wanted to talk about it, but to see their smiles, to see them giggle and act like any other, child that age, being silly and funny and telling jokes, and, having to be corrected sometimes or disciplined sometimes. It was amazing to me. They just brought joy. Every day was just a beautiful day to be at work. I always said, every day I went around the world and never left St. Louis. But to see, even if it was, we have to see progress in small, even if it was a small thing, very small thing. If that student was able to stay in class, half the day, and somebody may say, well, they're supposed to be in class all day. Well, if a student wasn't used to being in school and wasn't used to sitting in a building, 5 or 6 hours a day, then that was something for them to be able to stay in the classroom a half day. So I believed in, any increase, any advances that they made. I tried to see the smallest thing and tell them I really, I'm happy, I'm glad to see you did this or whatever. But yeah, it's hurtful to hear their stories, but to understand that they're still here, and today they're smiling, or if they're crying one moment, they're smiling the next, just to be there for them and to share that moment with them meant a lot. Meant a lot. I think it meant something to them, but it definitely meant a lot to me. So yeah, they're very inspiring. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at day one, and every time I'm moved. Every time I'm moved to become teary-eyed, I laugh, I cry every single time. So that's how beautiful it is. That's how great Lori tells her story.
But also, I really, really, it's so enjoyed capturing the joyfulness of these children. It was so beautiful to see it, and there's just these little scenes. You see Donnie in the hallway. You see Carrie Ritchie, this talented, English teacher. She's in the hall every passing period. She's talking to every child, asking how their family is, how their weekend is. And I think the team really was able to bring out the joy that existed in these children and gave them that space to do that. So it was lovely to be able to capture that on film. So
Yeah.
I think that the best thing about filmmaking is if you're lucky enough to get a good subject like that you're passionate about the story, it flows and it can happen. So
And I think another thing just to mention, the students had this spirit of gratefulness. Most of them were just grateful. They appreciated, their teachers, and they appreciated the people. They appreciated the lunchroom workers. They just seemed to, they in some small way we knew that they were grateful and they knew that we cared.
Yeah, I think all the audiences who have watched this film would understand like the dynamics you guys have just mentioned. Like you have really amazing teachers and students, and everyone just having good qualities and having their own talents, and the whole atmosphere is just incredible. So yeah, we all enjoy so much of the sharing that you just mentioned.